You're listening to the All Equity Podcast with Kevin Marcus Miller.
Right on. So let me ask you this. So I know we connected on IG. Typically when people reach out to you on Instagram, what do you think their intention is?
When people reach out on Instagram, there is either like a spam page or, trying to drive traffic into their programs.
So why do you think you and I got on this call?
Because at first I was like, okay, what is this? And I was like, you know what? Let me stop assuming about what things are and just give it a chance. Because, on the off chance, there could be somebody who actually, reaches out and that isn't trying to be like, hey, hop on my workshop, hop on my whatever to get you in. I'm like, okay, we'll try it. We're gonna go for it. I'm not gonna have this preconceived notion about what's going on here. That's why.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So open-minded. I like it. Okay. Yeah. Because what's crazy is a lot of times, I had this realization the other day. Like, I think one of the things we forget a lot is that our self-esteem was actually built in our lives the first 7 years of our life. And so what happens is over time, people challenge our self-esteem. And so we cave in, we shrink ourselves. And IG is like such a crazy place because I feel like a lot of people just want to let things come to them. Right. And they're afraid of making a phone call or being awkward or whatever. But in the reality of the situation is like, you might be talking to somebody, you have absolutely no idea what they've been through or what they could bring in your world. So I appreciate just you being open-minded. As a financial, someone who works with folks with their finances, like what is the reason you do that? Because you want them to, you want to save the world, or because you want to make a lot of money, or is it because of both?
So initially, the reason why I got into financial planning from the start, I had no idea what financial planning was. I went to college. I knew I was going to major in finance, but I didn't know what I was going to do with that degree. I thought I was just going to be, corporate finance, be like a financial analyst for some big company, climb the corporate ladder, be this, VP or CFO or something like that. But I was introduced to financial planning, kind of got into the world of started going through the classes and everything. And the reason why I stayed, to be honest, it wasn't just because I was like, oh, I just fell in love. I was pissed. I was mad because all the other people, I went to a PWI. So there's me and there's everybody else. I'm sitting in this class with all these other people and, parents who work at Enron and, VP of Shell, all these big, these big companies. And, they don't have the same struggle that I have. So I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, all of this stuff was available. You mean to tell me my mama could have saved for me before? That's really where I was. I was just pissed. I was like,
oh, wow.
Why did y'all not know this? And she's like, okay. I was like, all right, okay, bet. So cool. That's even more reason for me to stay here, learn everything that I need to learn so that we can, start to level the playing field here, because clearly the information is there, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And, it's not like, people of color, people who are, originally oppressed in this country. It's not like we're not making money anymore. It's, it's all about knowing what to do with it. And if you don't have access to the right people, like our former president who can get out of things, if you don't have access to the right people, you don't know what you're doing with your money. So, or you don't know what better ways your money can be utilized,
right?
To grow and, be aside for your future generations. So that's really the reason why I got into this business and why I continue to stay. I mean, of course, I know it's a lucrative business. I mean, It is, a white male dominated world. And so anytime I talk to people, they're like, oh my God, you're like a unicorn.
Right. Wait, so it's the financial, so the financial freedom that you wanted in your own life, is that like the ultimate motivator, or is there like the social justice component?
I wouldn't even say it was my own life. It was really just like, okay, so my family could have been a lot better off had my parents knew this. And I was like, all right, well, my kids ain't gonna go through this. Like, we're not gonna have this. So I'm just gonna learn as much as I can, and then, teach people as much as I can so that we can do this. I'm in, like, the original thought process wasn't really about just, making a whole bunch of money. Like I said, but my original thought process was I was just mad. So, and I just figured like I needed to do something about it.
I feel that. I think like one of the reasons I walked away from Microsoft was definitely I was mad, because I felt like I little things like not knowing how to project manage or like talk to people outside of your email, or like how to get clients.
Yeah.
Like what a Facebook ad is, like all those things. It was like, they should have been teaching this in school. Like, this is so lucrative and important. Oh my goodness.
There are so many things that we should have learned in school that were not taught to us. And just like, okay, we need to really change the curriculum around, like, especially for high school students, around 16, you start to get your first job. This is really where they need to be teaching about, here's how you read a pay stub, even though this is your hourly wage, this is not what you're going to bring home, because there's such a thing called taxes. Here's how you file those taxes. Here's how you complete a W-4. Here's how you read a benefits package, stuff like that. Like, those are things that should have been taught in high school when you get your first job, not physics and learning about lambda and theta. Like,
I don't think I even used the Pythagorean theorem a single time after I graduated.
A single time. Like, we learn about such pointless stuff.
Right.
And, I don't want to say it's pointless. Maybe the math majors, still utilize it. The people who want to go, be physicists and work for NASA and whatever, that's great for them. But for the rest of us who are not trying to cure, uncurable diseases and send Jeff Bezos and the rest of the rich billionaires into space, it was just no point. I'm like, I think about my physics class, and the only thing I remember is one of my friends, anytime like our teacher would mention like lambda, it's like the Y thing. My friend would, lambda.
That's funny.
She's just like, what is this? Lambda.
I feel like that's like a TikTok dance or something. That's hard.
What do you call them? The Gen Z. I just call them tech babies.
Right. Are you a millennial?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. 20s like me, yeah? Yep. Right on.
I am.
Very cool. And when did you graduate? Graduate college?
So I graduated with my bachelor's in December of 2014, and I finished my master's in May of 2016.
Woo! Say that. Okay. So master's. Okay. I'm like really split between the whole master's thing, just because so many people say it's like a worthless piece of paper. Do you feel that way?
I mean, it depends on, what your motive is behind it. Like, at this point, you're an entrepreneur. Like, if you're somebody who is still working in the corporate world, who was going to get some type of salary bump for getting, an MBA or some type of, advanced degree, or having somebody else pay for it, then, sure, go ahead, get the master's degree. You really want to, spend more of your time studying and going through stuff like that. But I mean, I did mine back to back, clearly, as you can tell from the timeline. That's really one of the reasons why I got it. I mean, I always told myself in school that I was going to get a master's degree. I kind of thought I'd work first, then come back, but I'm glad I didn't do that, because I would have never came back to get it. And for me, because I did all of my CFP coursework in undergrad as my electives, my master's degree it exposed me to other areas of finance that I wasn't studying in undergrad. So learning about like mergers and acquisitions. And
that's something I really wanted to learn about. I didn't get a chance to yet.
Yeah. And so, all of the other many facets of finance that people just hear and they're like, oh, so you know how to do this? I'm like, yeah, I know about it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know exactly how to do it. Like, this is a pretty broad world.
Gotcha.
You know, we have exposure, to corporate balance sheets and all this other stuff. And it's like I work on the personal side. But yes, I did take a couple classes that had a little something to do with it.
Right. And so for you, like, did you go in like a predominantly white college?
I did. I went to Louisiana State University. So.
Wait, hold on a second. That's a predominantly white college?
Yes, it is.
I thought it wasn't, because I had a cousin that went there. I thought it was like
LSU?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's currently a little
What?
there is currently a document floating around on social media of a letter that the president in 1961, who was Troy Middleton, wrote to the president of a college somewhere in Texas about when they initially integrated LSU back in the 60s, and how he was basically like, we got Negro students here, but, if they try to do something, we'll just find a way to discourage them to not try to not do stuff. Yes, LSU is predominantly white. So when I was a freshman, it was about 9% people of color. I don't know. It maybe rose to 15 at this point. Not sure. But yes, LSU is.
Oh, wow.
Very
much. I'm learning something new today. For real, I thought it was like a black college.
No, not at all. And some history, because the LSU stadium that people love so much, Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, we love it. The history of how it was built is because Huey P. Long, I feel like most people learned who that was in history. He basically lied to the government of Louisiana, told them he was going to build an agricultural building, built the stadium instead.
Wow.
So
interesting.
That would not happen if it was, an HBCU. Right. We know this wouldn't have happened.
Right. But okay, so freshman Kayla, hold on a second. I need to picture this. So in financial classes, predominantly white dudes in these classes, I'm assuming, right?
It's a little mixed, but I mean, yeah, mostly it's like myself, maybe one, maybe two other, students of color. But the way, these bigger universities pretty much work, pretty much all universities, you come in, you got to take all the freshman stuff. So your classes are pretty large. And then as you, get higher in your studies, your classes begin to shrink. And so eventually, by the time I hit like my junior and senior year and was in the upper level courses, my smaller classes was probably like me, one other person of color, and then the rest, Caucasian students.
What were some of the things that you noticed that were different about the way you were treated versus your white contemporaries?
I would say it had its advantages and its disadvantages. So for me, because I was one of the only students of color who joined the CFP program, because it was new on our campus, within the College of Business at the time, I was always asked to be in pictures or to go places and stuff to, kind of showcase, was somehow roped into the diversity inclusion organization that we had within the College of Business, which I totally don't regret at all, because that's where I met a woman who I consider to be one of my mentors. She's helped me so much through college, forever grateful for her. I would go into her office and we just spent hours in there just talking. And she would just be, giving me wisdom and stuff. And even when I finished undergrad and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go straight and finish this master's degree. She was like, I'm glad you're going to stay because I feel like I need a little bit more time.
Oh, that's sweet. That's so nice.
It sounded that way, but at first when she said, I was like, what you need more time with me? Am I not ready? But I mean, it was cool because truthfully, there were more things that, needed to happen that I needed to learn within that time frame. So, it had its advantages and it had its disadvantages when it came to, recruiters coming on campus and going through the interview process and stuff and who they wanted to hire, at this point in time, now thinking back on it, it could have been for various reasons.
Sure.
We never know. But also now, in this season of being older and, realizing what you actually take offense to.
Right.
And being more selective about that. Because people have their own way of doing things. And what I chalked it up to in college was that, people like to hire people that reflect themselves. That's just what it is. In this line of business, I don't reflect too many people.
So do you feel like you have to code switch still, or you feel like you got to abandon and remove some of those layers?
Like initially when, going through college and talking to all these people and trying to get a job, and even, getting like my first job, first full-time job, I definitely felt like, I had to.
That switch was on, huh?
And my first full-time job, stayed there for like over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And if someone asked me, did those people actually know who I was? Like, no.
Wow, that's deep.
Those people do not know me. Like, and it's not for them, like, it's not for like lack of them asking questions. It's just also in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is work. We're going to talk about work.
Right.
Because when we come over here, oh, what you doing this weekend? Minding my business. What are you doing this weekend?
And you, that's by design. What, for people listening, why do you feel like you chose that route versus telling people what you were doing on the weekend?
Because honestly, when you work, I don't know, maybe other single female women can relate to this, but I feel like as a single individual, when people ask you what you're doing this weekend and, you kind of divulge everything that you're doing, in their mind, they're just kind of thinking, especially if there's work to be done, they're like, oh, well, here, you could do this work because, you ain't got no kids, you ain't got no husband, you ain't got nobody to, go home to or fix stuff, or you have basically, you have no responsibilities. You have all the time in the world to, work. Or they just think, oh, you just out, being irresponsible or whatever it is. Like for me, I've never been a super open person. Like pretty much anyone who knows me knows that like there's a life you see and then there's like my actual personal life of, where I'm going, who I'm talking to. Pretty much everybody in my circle knows, like, I'm not the person that will post while I'm gone. Like, I'm going to wait till I get back and then I'll post all my pictures. And then people be like, oh, have fun. And I'm like, I did. Because I'm back home now. But I don't need y'all know where I am, giving y'all a play-by-play. Like, I'm just not that person.
Gotcha.
And I'm not mad at myself for that because I feel like that's also good for safety reasons because, people is crazy out here in these social media, internet streets. They find out you're gone, they be trying to, do other things. So, that's just never been my personality, especially for people that I, don't know. It's a work setting, you don't really know who you work with.
Tom might be lighting up on Saturdays. You have no idea.
You really don't. You don't really know who you work with. And folks is crazy. So you divulge as much as you want people to know. And you're the gatekeeper of your life. But
that's a gem. You're the gatekeeper of your life. That's hard.
Some people
you need to post that. I like that a lot.
I'll make a mental note of that. Some people just want to be all up, in your business, just really to find out what you're doing and then eventually end up, throwing it back at you. So you gotta, not to say be conservative with the information that you share, but, be selective, be wise.
How's your emotional bank account?
My emotional bank account.
Yeah.
It's getting full. Like I've always been an internalizer. So I'd internalize everything. People would be like, oh, you're fine. I'm like, y'all have no idea. It's like people are like, oh, your life just looks so perfect on the outside. I'm like, my life is far from perfect. Okay. I just know how to dress this hot mess up really well. Like God has graced me with that. I just know how to keep it together and not look, sound, or act like, my life is together. We all know those people who, as soon as their life goes into shambles, they're like all on Facebook, like, oh, woe is me. My life is falling apart. Da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, I'm just nobody really has time for your sob story kind of person. Like, I'm not out here, with my sob story and basically, kind of playing the victim to my own life. And for some people, we know it's like, all right, you were just on here last week talking about this. Like, so your life is the way it is right now because you made the decisions that put you there. So, I mean, most people who know me, they'll be like, yeah, you're not the person to come talk to if they need therapy. I'm not at all, because like I always hit people with the truth. Like, okay, and this is why. Okay, well, let's go back 2 weeks and what happened, and you made this decision, and now you're surprised because this happened. Well, you shouldn't be, because everybody else saw it coming. Why didn't you?
You feel like our generation is pretty soft or sensitive?
I feel like the world as it is today is becoming more open to offenses. And I don't particularly like it or care for it, because, even with the whole, and we saw this last year with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, people are saying Black Lives Matter and everybody's like, well, they're not the only lives that matter and all lives matter and da, 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 da. And it's like, we know that. We never said they didn't. But everybody's life is not in danger right now. We're focusing on the people's life who is in danger right now. And, people I feel today are very, very sensitive and get butthurt about a lot of things. And it doesn't matter what group you fall into, whether it be minority, whether it be LGBT, whatever. They keep adding letters. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, I just feel like there is a group of people in every oppressed community or, minority community that their offense level is just like on 1,000. And it's like, to me, there are just some things you shouldn't take offense to. It's like, it's like, is what it is. It just is what it is. Like, as Black people, there are certain places in the South where you're going to go to and you're going to encounter people who, have been ingrained from birth to be racist. Do you take offense to that? No, because I know your nature. So I'm not going to get mad at you being racist because I know you were raised racist.
That's an interesting way to put it. I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what it is.
When people show you, what you're saying is when people show you who you are, believe them.
Right. And, I read somewhere, it was like something about, I think this same-sex couple went into this bakery or something, and they were mad because the bakery owners didn't want to bake them a cake. And it's like, okay, fine. They don't want to bake your wedding cake. Go to another bakery. Like, just go to another bakery. This is not a Supreme Court case. Like, it's not worthy of that. Just go somewhere else. Gotcha. Like, stop taking offense to stuff like that. Like, if people don't want to do something, they don't want to do it. If they're not going to, open their arms and accept who you are and what you bring to the table, leave them be. Like, that's just how I feel. Like, but gotcha. I feel like I'm one of those people who have thicker skin. So
yeah, I definitely, I relate, just because the biggest thing a lot of people are shocked about is two things. One, I kind of follow like that old school philosophy of, just to put it blunt, I don't actually care about your feelings. Okay. Yeah. Truth be told, I've already managed over $100 million in marketing projects. I don't need anybody's attention. I don't need anybody's money or feelings or sympathies. I've survived 2 sudden cardiac arrests at 25. I've been on the homepage of the American Heart Association, USA Today, all these things, which other people would consider successful, but I still think personally, in my emotional bank account, I'm not where I need to be yet.
I mean, yeah, I feel you on that one.
You feel me?
Yeah.
I have way more to achieve. I know what my future is going to look like. I don't need you to validate anything. I'm just letting you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, you take it for what it is. There are people, who come up and it's like, oh, you've accomplished way more at your age than some people do in a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And that's great. I appreciate your accolades, but it's not, it's not enough for me because exactly. I know God made me to be better. Like I still have so many more levels to climb. Like I'm nowhere near.
Yeah, we're still on level 2. We're still on level 2 and there's 10 to go.
The game is just starting. Like I just figured out who I was.
Exactly.
And what I was supposed to do. Like, yeah, I've done a lot of great things as a teen in the early 20s. Yeah. But I mean, these 30s and these 40s and these 50s really.
In these 50s, I like the way you said that. In these 50s.
Right. They have to be banging.
So why do you think people, especially successful people like ourselves, like why do people get so in their feelings about the success when it's on a Black person's face? Why is there like that extra level of sensitivity?
I think it just has to do with history. Like, and people really have to pay attention to their unconscious bias because traditionally, we didn't even grow up seeing, high level positive images
high performers,
of high performers and, and people who are peak, doing like peak performance training and people who are operating at, super high levels. You didn't see these people's pictures on magazine covers. You didn't see them, the age of the internet just coming out. Like we're just now learning who all those people are because, of social media and, daring to step out of the comfort zone and into something different. Like that's really the only reason why I even know about half the people that I've been able to connect with and learn from over the past year is because I dared to step out of my comfort zone and get into something that was completely new and completely uncomfortable for me. And now I'm learning about this whole other community of people. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me I have been living below the mark and there are people up here making $1 million a month?
It's like there's like a Black millionaires club and we're just now like seeing the open sign.
Right. And it's just crazy. And even to see them and like the stuff that they grow through and how hard they've had to work to get to where they are. But the truth is, we still live in a world where, Black success is very intimidating for people.
Black women's success is very,
and especially Black women's success. It is still very intimidating for people. Yeah. Some people praise it, and some people, they'll sit there and smile in your face, and they are, ill willing you all of them.
They hot cakes. They boiling.
It's still an interesting time, to be alive. And I hate it when people are like, Black women are the most educated group, in the United States, like, currently. And I'm like, yeah, the most educated, but also the most in debt because they still getting out and people love, oh, I'm so glad you have this degree. And you still, lowballing offers when it comes to salary. So how do you expect? And I mean, women already make less than men,
that whole thing. It's still, honestly, I am still like, I don't understand how somebody got away with that. Because even racism in some ways, like certain things, like certain macro aggressions, right, became like against the law, right? Eventually it got picked up, but like not paying a woman the same. How did I'm just trying to figure out like how did someone not?
Because it's been that way since history. The men who were in power, as this country was built on, built on the backs of our ancestors, but led by white men. And they've always seen women as less than.
Right.
And especially people of color as less than. So it's easy to get away with that. So it's already ingrained in the institutions. And it's not like people do it purposely. They just know. And I mean, they unconsciously do it. It's part of their unconscious bias. Like at my last job, this is something I just won't ever forget for the rest of my life. I was in the kitchen. I don't know, might have been waiting on some coffee or something. And one of the older gentlemen, which I didn't realize it was an old boys club, but it was very much an old boys club. He basically the girl I was working with at the time was like talking about her boyfriend, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, yeah, eventually you'll get married, you'll find somebody, you'll get married, and you won't work anymore either. And I was like, excuse me? Like, did you really just let that come out of your mouth? Like, seriously, dude.
Wow.
But that's the way they think, because all of their wives had done it. Their wives were, teachers, and high-powered men see women who work as teacher jobs. It's like, oh, you got your little play money.
Mm.
Yeah.
This
is, especially in finance, they're like, this is where the big boys play. You got your little teacher salary. That's your little play money.
Because you helping kids, you being a good person, you're not making money.
Right, but you're not making real money. Like, literally, I had to explain. We were doing, at my last job, we did like sexual harassment training or something like that. Uh-huh. And I had made a comment about rainmaker. And, this generation knows what a rainmaker is. Like, according to our terms, what make it rain, rainmaker is.
You're funny.
Yeah, but the one of the older gentlemen in the room, he was like, I don't get it. And I was like, rainmaker, make it rain, one. He's like, I always thought a rainmaker was somebody who just makes a whole lot of money, basically talking about himself. I was like, I can see that. I can see where you are not up to date with anything, but that's cool too.
That's cool too.
Whatever works. Whatever you think it is, let it be. But it
ain't tricking if you got it, right?
Right.
Yeah, I see, like, a lot of the times I'll see my peers, and I used to do a lot of comparing and shit. And then I was like when I actually realized how unique my story is, and then I like calculated, like, a lot of people, they do have a similar story. So, there is another competitor or person that has the same story as them, right? There actually is not another marketer who has been through what I have been through, woken up out of a coma, walked away from their 9 to 5. Like, that storyline does not exist. So, like, I feel like it gives me like a certain level of self-esteem and confidence that a lot of people would never have.
Yeah.
And it's like a gift. It's like a second gift to actually embrace that self-esteem instead of let people tell you it's cockiness, because it's not.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like everybody has to find what makes them unique, right? And really figure out, like, why are people drawn to you? Like, what do the people around you actually, like about you? Everybody's story is unique. I mean, you might have the same degree, you might have the same, kind of upbringing, whatever, what have you, but learning to appreciate your story, and then learning how to also, differentiate yourself and be louder than the noise is kind of, it's a lost. I wouldn't even call it a lost art. It's like a hidden art, because a lot of people don't really like hone into it. They don't find it. And a lot of people don't dare to find it. They just, shrink. And like, I'm not special. I'm not going to do it. I'll just stay here. This job, let me work. Let me, put some money in my retirement account and just try to retire. Retire and live a good life. And for some people, that's great.
Right.
For other people, it's like, that is not enough for me. So
as we're closing a little bit, what is like the top thing for you in terms of the next 5 years that you want to accomplish, and where can people connect with you?
Top thing that I would like to accomplish within the next 5 years is, so I feel like so I have like this huge business plan in my head. So, like, ultimately I want to own a large financial planning company that basically allows people to handle the 4 aspects of what I call their financial household all in one company. So covering their taxes, their investments, their insurance, and also their estate planning, all in one place. So that's like the vision, but I like have it all in tiers. So like right now I feel like I'm at tier 1. If I could hit all the tiers and have it done within 5 years, amazing. I think might probably 10 years is probably more realistic. But within the next 5 years, at least be into level 2 and maybe have some of those branches done, or at least built out, for me to accomplish that. And so yeah, that's pretty much like tier 2 of the ultimate, empire business plan that I have in my head. Because, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yes,
Neither neither will the Kayla empire be built in a day either. So at least the tier 2 of the business plan. And people can connect with me on Instagram. It's my name at Kayla M. Walter 1, and shoot me a message, all that good stuff. I'm here. I'm available. Happy to talk. Happy to help walk through, pretty much anything about finances. I feel like that's one of the things that people really struggle with,
Right.
And they know it. Like people know what they're doing. It's like giving these 18-year-old, these young boys, especially the ones from the hood, giving them these large salaries. They already know somebody's going to come in, and they're prey, literally.
Right.
They are prey. And there are people out there that are predators lying in wait for them to go ahead and sign that contract, because they're going to be like, oh yeah, this boy don't know nothing about nothing. Let me go, talk to him, give him some good language, and he going to trust me, and basically, just going to take all their money. And that's honestly just what happens all the time. So I'm personally tired of seeing it, and I hope other people are tired of seeing stuff like that too. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and
thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the All Equity Podcast. Until next time.